Did you do it?
I think so. Hard to know until. Oh, let me see that other thing quick. Well, it's not anyone this time.
Oh, they're here.
Mhm.
Another live? Yes, another live. When's the last time you did something exciting? I'm doing something exciting right now. What are you talking about? Blue eyes? I do have blue eyes. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Is it okay that I'm attracted to my sister? Oof. It's a rough one. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Oh, dang it. What? Why did it do that? Oh, there we go. How's my grandma? My grandma's good. Both of them. My grandma and my Oma are both still alive, which is pretty crazy. Thoughts on the new Superman movie? It was decent. I think people really overhyped it, but it was decent. Is the Planet Fitness chest press good? It's all right. The only thing I don't wait, it depends on which one you're referring to. If you're referring to the straight press, the only thing I don't like about it is it's on two separate systems. So like it's you kind of like moves, I guess you could say. Like I'm pretty sure you can move like one at a time. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. I would prefer if they were attached to each other so that they moved simultaneously. Otherwise, it's not too bad. Thoughts on Winston Ledger? I have no idea who that is. Are you gonna join Yotalk's server? No. No. The haircut is fresh. Thank you. Do you think Chris Beardsley is a good source for info? So here's the issue that I have, not with Chris specifically, but more so with the way that people take what Chris says. If Chris puts out a topic and he puts out an idea, even if he caveats it, the people who listen to him don't caveat it. I'm like, okay, I literally saw in that post where he said, maybe this. And then people went and were like, oh, this. I'm like, he didn't even say that. So it's it's interesting. It's interesting watching the way people use his info. Did you see the vid Dorian made about you? I saw one like a long time ago. Uh, I don't know about any recently. Uh, what's my favorite Marvel movie? Infinity War. Am I supposed to do the first working set to RIR 0 and the second RIR 1 to 2 opposite? If you have two working sets and you're trying to figure out which one should be taken to failure, it should be the second set taken to failure, if you're going to go to failure. Could you explain what mechanical tension actually is? So mechanical tension is just a pulling force that the fibers experience. I know like people are like, oh, well, what's mechanical tension? It's literally just a pulling force that the fibers experience. It's just not every fiber gets to experience mechanical tension until you get to a certain level of effort. So what happens is people are like, oh, well, like they try to explain mechanical tension as like mechanical tension is what happens when X happens. Like, well, no, mechanical tension was happening the whole time. It's just the fibers that are capable of growing were not experiencing mechanical tension. So they'll be like, mechanical tension is not achieved until you get to the last 5 reps of a set. I'm like, that's just not true. Mechanical tension was achieved before that, just not the mechanical tension within the fibers necessary in order to actually stimulate growth. So it's just people getting terms mixed up. Training to failure is so much easier than gauging RIR. Well, you're not wrong. What do you think are elite genetics, as in insertions, frame, etc.? Well, the easiest way to figure out what elite genetics are is just to look at the best in the world. And I don't mean the best naturals in the world, I mean the best enhanced athletes in the world. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, but they use gear. I'm like, okay, so everybody else around them is also using gear. So if you want to take a look at what the best genetics are, you just take a look at the people who were the best bodybuilders in the world. And then obviously genetics is a combination of structure, insertions, overall roundness, fullness. And then I think sometimes people mistake conditioning for genetics. Oh, hi, buddy. I don't think you're supposed to be up here. What are you doing? Say hi. Are you just going to stay here? Does Tori know you're up here? And she doesn't, does she? No, she definitely doesn't. Da da da. What are you live for? For you guys. Okay. Attitude. My goodness. The dog is massive. No, I'm just tiny. Give Drax optimal. Drax has too much energy already. Can't give him optimal. Do you have any substantial muscle imbalances? I mean, that's all just comes down to how you define substantial. Most aesthetic physique on the planet? I mean, at the end of the day, it all depends on what you consider to be aesthetic. So, most aesthetic would have to go to Chris Bumstead, because classic physique is literally supposed to be if you had to distill it down into one word, the word that you would describe for classic physique is aesthetic. So it'd be C-bum. So it all depends on what you consider to be aesthetic. Dog bigger than you, Unk? I know. When's Ecovision coming to Europe? I don't know. Old school Flex Wheeler is probably the most aesthetic ever. Flex is very aesthetic. Let me see. I've not looked at a side by side of Flex versus C-bum. I'm very curious actually now. The tough thing about that is C-bum would do better in terms of conditioning. C-bum has a slightly better X frame. So it would come down to what you consider to be aesthetic. If I used creatine for 4 weeks and I'm saturated, is it okay to take it every other day? I mean, you won't maintain full saturation if you're taking it every other day, most likely. So just take it every day. Or if you are going to take it every other day, then take a little bit more. In my opinion, it's Nas. Nas is very aesthetic. The thing that Nas is always going to struggle with is the fact that his clavicles aren't as wide. So people are like, oh, but his waist is super narrow. It's like, yes, the problem with you can't just base it off of waist to shoulder ratio, because you could have an amazing shoulder to waist ratio, but then you stand next to somebody else who has wider shoulders than you, and it just is visually obvious. So it's and it distracts, right? Because then the person just appears much larger. So that's going to be his main struggle. Overall, his physique is incredible, like very, very good. Lines, conditioning looks like it'll be really solid this year, shape, everything else. But the main struggle is going to be, can he overcome his structural shoulder limitation? Clark Kent, most aesthetic natty for me. Clark is very aesthetic. You'd probably find that there's guys out there who you don't know the name of who are technically going to beat him on a bodybuilding stage. But overall, like, Clark is very, very good proportions, muscular size, fullness, roundness, all very solid. VMFC gang. Yes, VMFC gang. I was just diagnosed with neck hernia. Did you ever have a client with one? No, I have not. Sorry, I can't really give you a whole bunch of it. Keenan never received his Echolite. He's sad. Oh, well, he should reach out to the guys at Echo then. What muscles benefit from stretch? So it's the question, the better question is, what have we proved benefits from the stretch? The ones that we've, like some of the ones that we've proved, calves, adductors, hamstrings, quads. So like the lower body muscle groups all seem to respond decently to stretch. Glutes, I think, may, but glutes also respond, like glutes do amazingly with short position movements too. So I don't know if glutes would fall into that category or not. I think chest is one that we think will as well. Um, but ultimately, there could be others, and then it's just a matter of time before we figure out that they do. My general take on it is if you can train a muscle group at a little bit longer length, I don't think you should avoid it. I think some people try to avoid training muscle groups at longer lengths. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. I think you should still do it. The Sebum glaze is crazy. I mean, we got to be objective here. There's a reason he won as many Olympias as he did. What do I do for traps? Shrug variations or rows. So rows and shrug variations. It's really all you can do for the traps. Do you like the hammer strength pullover machine? I'm going to be honest. I would have to see what the hammer strength pullover machine looks like. Because I'm pretty sure the one that I typically use is a Nautilus. Hammer strength pullover machine. It's okay. I've used it before. It's okay. Is YouTube audience better than TikTok? I don't know. I don't know. What's your current training looking like generally? It's push pull legs for the most part, and then sometimes upper lower. Tell Mundy to start posting on YouTube again. It's not my fault, man. He's probably just busy. Is a hinge on a low row machine good for the erectors? I feel like it'd be a little awkward because it pulls. So, like, your torso would be here and it would pull you in this line. I feel like that would be a little bit awkward, but if you can make it work, then go ahead. You watching F4? Planning on it. Upper lower, overrated. Doing 20 sets is much more fatiguing than 10 in push and 10 in pull. Um, I think upper lower is fine. It's just I prefer to I prefer to focus on things. I've just always been that way. That could just be, I don't know, a little bit of but I prefer it's like, okay, like I'm going in to hit these specific muscle groups and I prefer not to spread it out. Where do you program deadlifts in PPL? So deadlifts, I'm assuming you're referring to just your hinge variations. I'll typically perform, if I'm doing a hinge variation, like a stiff leg deadlift, I'll typically do it on lower. But I also, depending on whether I need it or not, or depending on how much I need, I'm also more careful with my volume on it. So I know some people are like, I don't know, they're like, well, you have to train everything at X frequency. And I'm like, okay, so once you get to a certain level of strength, movements that require a lot of tissue, you think about them a little bit differently. Because if I start doing 3 or 4 sets of hinges each time I go into the gym, I know that that's going to substantially compromise my recovery ability. So I have to think about it a little bit harder. Do you think any bodybuilder had the potential to match or beat Ronnie? It's a good question. So I would say there's various bodybuilders who, if everything came together right for them at the same time, they might have been able to, at the very least, they could have beat Ronnie at some of his not as good appearances at the Olympia. But Ronnie's like best, when Ronnie's at his 100% best, I don't know if we've seen any bodybuilder who would have been able to beat him at his best. How to peak for a first bodybuilding show? Honestly, if you're not confident on it, I wouldn't even bother trying to peak all that much. Just because of the fact that you can do substantially more harm trying to overcomplicate your peak than you will just undercomplicating your peak. So if you want to play around with a little bit of water and sodium manipulation, you can, but I would suggest doing that away from show. So if you're like 6 weeks out, I would say play around with some stuff, see what happens, and then that can give you a better idea as to whether that would be a good move for when you actually try it on stage. But I think people often overcomplicate their peak, and because of that, they end up just not coming in as well as they could. Do you still get sore? Depends, sometimes. What are your opinions on Jeff Vid? You mean the one about natural lifters? I'm gonna be honest, I've only seen a few individual clips from it, so I can't give you like a full statement on the video. Does caffeine really hinder muscle growth? No. Is back extension viable for spinal erectors? It is. So because a lot of time, like when I made that video showing the exercise that I'm currently preferring, if I'm trying to isolate the erectors, people are like, well, why not just use a back machine? The problem with most back machines is in order to use the back machine, so you're like this, right? And your body and your torso is like this. And what are you doing with this portion, right? So what are you doing with the lower half of your body? Well, what you're doing is you're bracing against something. You're bracing against the machine right here, and then you're doing your back extension like this. Well, what is that? That's just a hinge pattern. I'm not trying to do a hinge pattern. I'm trying to work the erectors. Hinge patterns like that, where you have to brace right here, are going to heavily involve the hamstrings, glutes, and adductors, depending on how far it goes, but you know what I'm saying. So rather than doing a back extension machine where I'm pushing back like this and getting too much involvement or more involvement than I want from my lower half, if I have something where it's pulling directly right here, I'm kind of rounded on it, and then all I'm doing is just flexing, which is what's happening when your torso is against the chest supported row. Then what happens is you're actually taking and not really using much contribution from the lower half, because all you're doing is you're allowing them to flex and then extend, flex and then extend. What about the booty builder hinge machine? I mean, it's called a booty builder for a reason. I mean, technically, I guess if we're talking actual angles, it might do a little bit better for the hamstrings, but I mean, it's going to be a hamstring and glute exercise mostly. So again, if you're trying to grow the erectors, will your erectors have to come into play? Yes. Is it going to be a isolation move for the erectors? No. I always struggle to get upper back activation. Any tips? Just do the exercise. Whenever somebody tells me that they struggle to get upper back activation, I'm just like, all right, show me your set for whatever you're doing. And they'll do it. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, if something is moving your arm from here back to here, right? Like, you can't do that without using the traps. If you're taking and you're doing a shrug that goes from here to here, you can't do that without using the traps. So it's like, I think people far too often get caught up in whether they feel it or not. But I'm like, your skeleton is moved by your muscles. So as long as the actual technique is good, don't worry too much about how much you're feeling it. Do you agree that some people have stubborn fat tissue that won't go without reaching an unhealthy body fat percentage? I mean, it depends. Like, no, I don't disagree with that. Right? I mean, you at some point or another, you're going to have one place on your body that stores more body fat than other places. So, of course, like everybody's going to have the last area or last areas that you have to get incredibly lean in order to lose. That's what bodybuilding is. Bodybuilding is who can get the most off of their physique. Or I should say that's a very big portion of bodybuilding. How do you program both rows and kelsos in 1 week? If you wanted to do both of them, then you could either do them on different days, or if you want to do them both on the same day, then I would say just make sure you're doing your shrugs first. I know it's like people are like, oh, well, I like to do my rows and then do my kelsos after. I'm like, that's perfectly fine. If that's what you want to do, you can do that. But it does make a little bit more sense to actually do your kelsos first, just because you can move significantly more weight on it. Assuming you actually have good technique with your kelsos. But if you're just trying to do things quickly, you're doing like some sort of drop set, I mean, you can always do that. I think people have gotten so caught up with the idea of optimizing every single aspect of their training that they assume that if it's not optimized, it means they won't get results, or they'll get like they'll get terrible results compared to if they optimized each aspect. And I'm like, you can only get so big. You can only gain so much muscle. I'm pretty sure that the guys who didn't do the most optimal exercises but were squatting 700 to 800 pounds with butt to their heels for reps developed pretty darn good legs. Just my personal opinion. Are cut/bulk cycles better than just staying at maintenance at a reasonable body fat? Well, see, the problem is people don't even know what maintenance is. That's the issue. So everybody's got a different definition of maintenance, and this has completely destroyed people's ability to rationalize this concept. So it's actually on my board over there. So maybe I can just point to it from here. You can't, it's going to be a little bit hard to see. So that says fat, that says muscle. All right. This right here is like an arbitrary unit of the amount of stored energy that you have of each of these tissues. So you have your fat and your muscle. Now, if you stay, let's say you have 1,000, let's say you have 1,000 of each tissue in terms of usable energy. So you have 1,000 calories worth of usable energy of muscle, 1,000 calories worth of usable energy of fat. If you take and say, well, if I keep my body fat levels, my body fat percentage the same, and I build muscle, it's like, then I'm at maintenance. It's like, well, that wouldn't be maintenance. At least not in my, like, I don't define that as maintenance, because in order for your muscle, I'm working backwards right now. In order for your muscle to increase, you see that little darker green bar up there? Then your fat must also increase proportionally in order for you to maintain the same relative body fat percentage. So people who are like, well, should I just stay at maintenance? I'm like, that's not, like, in my opinion, that's not maintenance. That's literally a surplus. It's not a big surplus at any individual time, but it's still a surplus. It's that simple. Do you think intensity techniques are worth it? I'd say intensity techniques are, I think they're underrated, to be honest. Just because of the fact, I think they were at one point overrated, including by myself. I think I overrated intensity techniques at some point. But as far as like, I think right now they're actually severely underrated, because intensity techniques can allow you to get more volume in shorter periods of time. And especially for people that don't like spending a lot of time in the gym, or just want to be like, get in, get their workout done, get out. I see people cutting their workouts short instead of using intensity techniques. So, well, intensity techniques are inferior. I'm like, well, not if you're limited on time. So it's like, I think you kind of got to balance it. It's like, okay, well, do you have a lot of time to go to the gym? Yes. Okay, then you probably don't really need to be adding in intensity techniques. But if you're somebody who doesn't have as much time, I think there's been such a harsh move against it that people don't realize that they can actually be useful for conserving the amount of time that you need to spend in the gym. Can you share some tips about content creation? I guess it would really depend on what sort of tips you're looking for. If you ask me more specific questions about content creation, I can help out. It's literally what I do. I have a school group that I actually shoot it from here. I have a school group that I do where every week we go live and I analyze accounts and help people with growing their account and also with questions related to actually making money off their account, stuff like that. But you have to actually have a following and be doing well on social media to make money off of it. So you got to start from ground zero. Where's the shirt from? Echo made this. Thoughts on Chris Beardsley suggesting 2 reps with 5 rep max being good for hypertrophy? I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see that take, but it's a struggle. That would be a struggle for me. If that was the actual take, that'd be a struggle. I appreciate it, Caden. Was on his podcast. Here's one of the issues you tend to run into. When you start theorizing and you spend so much of your time working in theory, sometimes you miss practical application. Because you're like, oh, well, if this equals this and this equals this and this equals this, then this equals this. And it's like, I think you have to make some pretty big leaps to make that happen. Why are you sweating? It's Vaseline. Got to stay hydrated. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just I would struggle to get there. Any book recommendations related to bodybuilding? I've never read any books related to bodybuilding, to be completely honest with you. Why'd you start training so much less intense compared to 2 years ago? Well, because I took an objective look at the available data. I still train more intensely than the vast majority of science-based lifters, but yeah, as I was taking a look more objectively at it, I was like, does this make sense for me to be doing the drop sets that I'm doing, the mechanical drop sets? And I was like, kind of hard to argue with what's available. And I'm like, you know what? Let's back off a little bit. And I might try some of that stuff out again for fun. I might take a year and just go ham at the gym, intensity techniques, everything, just see what happens. You know, that's one of the nice things. I think people forget that when you're lifting and you have legitimate plans to continue lifting for a long period of time, you can experiment with things and have fun with it, right? Like I could take an entire year and dedicate it towards training with supersets, mechanical drop sets, whatever else. I could take an entire year and do that. And as long as I'm in the gym consistently, at the very least, I'll maintain my muscle. It's like, would it be superior? Probably not, but might be fun to try it out. You look chubby, my glorious king. Yes, I had a high sodium day yesterday. My face is incredibly reactive to sodium. So when I have a high sodium day, you'll see it immediately in the face. TNF pump chaser era. I mean, still wouldn't be for the pump. Pump might happen alongside of it, but it wouldn't be for the pump. Best program for someone who can't work legs for a couple months? The exact same program as you would have done, just for the upper. Now you can just spread it a little bit more effectively. Don't overthink it. What's my body fat at now? Probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like, let me think. I'd probably be somewhere around 15%. I've been hanging around 15% for a little while now. What did I eat yesterday? I just ate some pre-prepared meals and like our Buffin muffin order came in, so I had Buffin muffins. Just a lot of sodium in one day. Have you ever injured back deadlifting? Um, Not severely. If I've ever, maybe like a slight tweak here and there, but nothing crazy. What's the leanest healthy body fat? It just depends on the person, right? So it's like it's not a set answer. People want it to be a set answer. It's not. Some people can do well at lower body fat percentages. Other people struggle. Like you take a look at a guy like Tristan Lee. Tristan Lee force fed himself to get to what, like 12% body fat, and like he was like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot of food. Me, I'm like 12%. I'm like I'm hungry, very very hungry. What's my body fat at right now? Probably around 15. You see Ryan Jewer's recent day in the life, 4,000 calorie maintenance, 4,900 calories in the, yeah, 4,000 calorie maintenance is crazy. Definitely not as much. That's definitely not what I need. Is feeling mentally unwell expected during a cut? It happens. My gym buddy thinks Bayesian curls do not work and do not have tension at the lengthened position. Well, those are two separate questions. So the question as to whether it has tension at the lengthened position and whether it works are two very different questions. Because a Bayesian curl, depending on the height of the cable and where your upper arm is, can have tension at length, but it would require you to hold your shoulder in place in order to make it work that way. Now, whether it works or not, I mean, it's very obvious that Bayesian curls work. Right? The bicep still works. Biceps are still able to grow through Bayesian curls. Now, the question wouldn't be, does it work? The question would be, does it make sense to program it above something else? And then that's where people would argue. You feel good at 15%? I feel really good at 15%. I would say for me, if I had to give you at least from my overall experience up to this point, where I tend to feel amazing is around like physically, where I tend to feel amazing is 15%. Mentally, honestly, like I can eat. So like I still think about food a little bit more than I want to at 15%, but I as far as like how I actually perform in the gym, my energy levels, I feel amazing at 15%. How do I join the school group? If you go to my TikTok, my link tree has it. It's right. If you go to the, literally all you have to do is just click on the link tree at my TikTok or my Instagram, and then you can join the school group. Would there be muscle growth in a deficit at 20/25% body fat? It's possible. It just depends on how you're going about it. Are there advantages or disadvantages at building muscle as a diabetic? That I'm honestly not sure of. I know some people will say like, okay, so here's my general thought on it. People who are diabetic obviously have to take insulin, right? It's like if they don't, then they're in big trouble. Could they leverage that insulin for more muscular gains? I don't know. I don't know. I've never tried it. I've never looked into the methodology by which they may or may not be able to do it. But I would guess that it would be incredibly difficult to do. Uh, so it's like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh well, that person's diabetic then, because I saw there's this one newer guy on the sphere. I think his name is Zach, and a lot of people accuse him of using his insulin to produce more muscle gains because he's got an amazing physique and is diabetic. Where is Luis? I don't know where Luis is. He's probably screen recording all of this. Do you think lower or higher reps give more CNS fatigue? It's a good question. It's a good question. I know people have debated it, and I know people have given their reasoning for each. Um, so I think often what happens is people mistake the idea of lower reps for causing more CNS fatigue because what they're actually doing is they're actually saying lower reps with really bad form. So I'll give you an example, right? If you take a set of, I don't know, barbell back squats to failure at 10 reps, often what will happen is when somebody does 10 reps to failure with a back squat, their technique will be picture perfect. And so they'll go straight down, straight up, and they'll pretty much end the set at 10 reps, right? Like they'll go down, they'll go up, and they probably don't take as many like top breaths when they get to like 7, 8, 9. They're just like take maybe a deep breath at like 7, like do a couple more reps. Maybe they take a break before they hit their 10th rep, but you'll see the technique remain very, very solid all the way throughout. Whereas when somebody goes to do a 4 rep max or a 3 rep max on a squat, what you'll often see is you'll see form breakdown. You'll see them start to lean forward more, bring additional muscle groups into it a little bit more. You'll see them do like a long pause before going for like that second, third, or fourth rep, which means that they probably more realistically were closer to like a 2 rep max or 2 or 3 rep max, but because they took that additional time to reset before going for those additional reps. And so it's like, so what people will do is they'll be like, no, 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 because I did a set to failure at 3 reps and that absolutely murdered me. And I'll watch the set and I'll be like, well, that makes sense. Like it doesn't look anything like what it would be like if you took a 10 rep set to failure. Long story short, if you standardize the technique and make it perfect, I would guess that the lower reps would actually cause less. But it's very, very hard for people to standardize their actual repetitions. So it's much easier to measure. I think it would be much easier to analyze something like that on something like a preacher curl than something that involves multiple joints and stability demands. Are you more active on TikTok or YouTube? TikTok. But YouTube, we've been really hammering down lately. What are the negatives of an aggressive cut? So some of the negatives, when you do an aggressive cut, you will lose more muscle. I mean, that's just a fact. Anybody who says otherwise is stupid because when they say like, "Oh, but I didn't lose muscle on my aggressive cut," it's like, okay, yeah, but you had didn't build as much muscle as you would have if you'd done a slightly less aggressive cut. So what happens is they're like, well, I didn't lose muscle on it. I'm like, yeah, but there's a possibility that if you did a slightly less aggressive cut, then you might have actually even gained a little bit of muscle. Whether it's small or not, you still would have been able to put on more tissue. So can you maintain your muscle during aggressive cut? Absolutely. Are you going to be able to build muscle as well as if you did a slightly lower deficit? No. Um, so that's obviously a con, but you're also out of it quicker. So then it's like, okay, what matters more? You also will run into nutrient deficiencies faster on an aggressive cut. So what you'll see is you'll see people who aren't particularly smart about their food choices will go on aggressive cuts and they'll consume like protein powder. And I'm like, okay, that's just dumb. If you're going on an aggressive cut, you should probably be getting nutrient dense sources. Um, Other things, just lower energy, worse sleep. So like all these things are very real when you aggressively cut, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to experience them every single time and that there's not ways to mitigate it. How many calories you consume a day? So I'm typically somewhere between 2,500 to 3,000. That's my overall, like, if I'm just stabilized out at around 200 pounds, that's how much I'll be eating. If I go into the 3,000s, I start gaining weight. Idea of Ecovision Gym still a thing? Yeah, I mean, they're still thinking about it. It's just there's lots of other things on the to-do list. What do you think about good mornings versus an SLDL? I hate good mornings, to be completely honest. Doesn't mean that I don't think they can be used effectively. I think they can. If I was going to do a good morning, I would definitely be doing it on a Smith machine just to make it easier. Like it's like, I mean, you're leaning forward with something on the top of your back. It's like, I guess, easier for you to lose balance while doing that. So I would do it on a Smith machine. But if I had to choose between the two, I'm probably going to do an SLDL. I just prefer it, but sorry, doesn't mean that you can't do good mornings with effectiveness. How is Ryan eating 4,000 calorie maintenance? Bigger dude, higher doses. as in 0 to whatever he's taking, and then he's just probably a little bit more active than me in terms of his non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Can you spot reduce fat on your neck? I don't know. I would doubt that you'll be able to do it effectively if you try. So is there a possibility that you might be able to slightly spot reduce fat by training in particular formats? Sure. But I would guess that it'll be so minimal that you might as well just focus on losing fat overall. What's your opinion on 2 times a week frequency versus 3 times? Do whatever one suits you best. Can you get stronger while in a calorie deficit or at maintenance? Yeah. Are you going to? I mean, that depends on a lot of factors. Why do we typically see processed foods yield worse results? I mean, because you are a system with a lot of complex parts, and those parts have keys and functions. And when you have low nutrient intake, you're probably not going to do as well. Your body has a lot of things that can be optimized. So if your gut health isn't as good, if your overall mental state isn't as good, if you're spiking your insulin more than you need to, if you're having things that are very there's just a ton of things that go into your overall health. And so if your overall health isn't as good, and you're gonna probably end up not performing as well. Jewers doesn't claim Natty, no. Worst injury I've had from lifting? I don't know, honestly. Like, my most severe injuries haven't been through lifting. Maybe like a knee thing. I was stupid, didn't warm up properly, and caused me some tendonitis in my knee. What do you think about EMG measuring in hypertrophy studies? I think EMG is underrated by a lot of people, and I think it's also overrated by some. So just depends on where you go. How to improve gut health? Honestly, I would just start looking it up. Like, just start looking up what foods can help with overall gut health. I mean, you have some things that are like prebiotics and stuff like that. You have fermented foods. You have getting enough fiber in your diet. You have avoiding ultra processed foods where possible. There's a lot of different things you can do. What does my diet consist of? So right now, I'd say my diet is an overall pretty good blend of, you have various grains. So like you have like quinoa, not quinoa, sorry. So like couscous, rice. Then we have other things like sweet potato, regular potato, broccoli, asparagus, some fruit, not as much fruit recently. And then obviously your proteins. So then I have like chicken, salmon, beef, not as much eggs recently. I should probably get more eggs into my diet again. No, just a varied diet. Opinion on retatrutide? Retatrutide is kind of crazy. Seems to be really good. Um, I've tried to be very harsh against. I've tried to be harsh anytime something gets put forward where people praise it incessantly. I always try to be very harsh. Retatrutide, I've taken through the same rigorous process, been very harsh, made sure made sure that I'm not developing a lens around it that's only based off of positive experiences of people. And the more I look at retatrutide, the more impressed I am. No way you promoting the gut health myth. Gut health's not a myth. You just don't understand it. I'm struggling to know who to trust in regards to volume and general training principles. It seems so controversial. How do I know who to trust? Well, I mean, you shouldn't trust people. People will let you down all the time. Don't trust people. So what you need to do is you need to take a look and say, okay, they're saying different things, they're saying different things. Whose opinion do I trust on a more general basis? And then from there, still be skeptical. So I think far too often people want somebody to just be their, oh, well, they said it, so it must be true. You shouldn't do that with me, with anybody else. What you should do is you should say, okay, why is this person saying what they're saying? Why is this person saying what they're saying? Is there overlapping themes? Typically, if there's overlapping themes amongst a bunch of people, it means that that's the thing that's the most settled. And so right now, volume is a big topic because there's people that disagree on it. But guess what? Nobody disagrees on. Nobody disagrees that you're not maximizing growth training a muscle group with one set once per week. So probably avoid that. There's very few people that say that you should be training every muscle group 30 sets plus per week, right? They might, like, there are a few creators out there, which I don't fully agree with, who would say, like, oh, well, if something's like really behind and you want to give it additional, maybe you take some time for a training block to do that for like 30 plus sets and you really like hammer down on that muscle group for that time period. I don't agree with that approach. I don't think it's a good approach, but there are people that say that. But guess what? They never say. They never say do it with all muscle groups. So there's probably somewhere in there that you're going to fall in. So what you should do is you should play around with various techniques, do things yourself, see what seems to work well for you, see what you're recovering from, and most of all, if you are progressing over time, you're doing what you need to do, or at least you're doing the bare minimum of what you need to do. So don't trust you? Exactly. People think that that's some like insult. No, you shouldn't trust me. Why would you trust me? Do you know me? No, you shouldn't trust me. Now, you can place more confidence in somebody than somebody else because you're like, okay, I've seen this person be consistently reliable on things, but that doesn't mean that that's something I say something and automatically it's true. Right? I can be wrong just like anybody else. Let me guess, Echo sells probiotics. I didn't say probiotics, I said prebiotics. Get your hearing checked. And no, they don't. I do 3 heavy sets to failure. Love to hear it. How to work out with arthritis or joint problems. Could use some tips. Oof. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. That's not my area. And that's the other thing. Like when people ask me something that I'm legitimately not confident on, I'm not going to BS you and be like, oh yeah, just do this. Like that's not my area. So I would say if you're having issues with arthritis and joint problems, you should talk to a specialist about it. It's not something I'm going to be particularly helpful with. This is good info. People need to use this in all aspects of life, not just who to trust with training. It's true. It's true. Which personal training certifications would you recommend? Textbooks? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I I think certifications are super overrated. By the time you get some sort of certification, most of the stuff that they're teaching you is outdated or just so basic that you're not actually really learning anything. I think you're going to do far better with self-study if you're actually interested in the topic. But you can do whatever certification you want. I think what happens is the only time that I will actually recommend somebody to get a certification is if that certification gives them additional confidence in what it is they're trying to do, or they have to do it for another employer. Outside of that, I'm like, eh. Certification, schmertification. Are you worthy to carry Stormbreaker? I am. Can you talk more about retatrutide, like side effects, etc.? So, I mean, there's not the issue with I'm going to be careful when I say this because this is not saying that there's not a possibility that we discover something later, right? I always want to be careful whenever we're talking about anything not that's not on the what do you call it? The white market? Because there's the black market. Would you call it the white market? I don't know. Anyways, whenever I'm talking about substances that you can't exactly get through the most ethical means, Uh, gray market. Sure, we'll go with that. Retatrutide, it's from what we've seen in the clinical trials that we've seen, there does not seem to be that many side effects, and the side effects that we do see just seem to be the same side effects that you get with most GLP-1s. Maybe a little bit of nausea, constipation, uh, maybe some bloating, stuff like that, but it's mostly just digestive. Doesn't really seem to cause all that much issue outside of that. But is there a possibility that we could find out something later? I saw somebody referring to like blindness. And I was like, blindness. And like I think you'd have to do like a pretty deep dive to find that, and I think it's pretty niche. But I think there was something to do with GLP-1s and possible eye issues. So just be careful. Go look into things before you take anything. What do you think the minimum age requirement for somebody to go on a deficit is? I'd say it's more so a minimum fat requirement. I'll have people all the time that will ask me like, "Oh, well, should a 15-year-old be on a calorie deficit?" And they'll be asking me because they're talking about some 15-year-old who's over 200 pounds and 5'5". And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I don't care who you are, like what you say. Yes, that person should be in a calorie deficit. Like, I'm not saying there's not dumb ways to do it, but yes, it would be better for them to be in a calorie deficit. Any collabs with Will Tennyson soon? I would love a collab with Will Tennyson. I'm too small time for him though. Like he would be doing some hefty charity work to be doing a collab with me. How to self-study, like where do I start and sources? So it depends on the topic, right? I can't just be like, oh, well, just do this. It's like, okay, first off, what I typically do, or what I typically recommend when it comes to self-study, is find something that you're truly interested in. One of the best ways to actually learn is to be invested in what it is that you're learning. Because I'll see people all the time, they're like, oh, like, how do I study or how do I do this? And I'm like, do you have any interest in this? No. Like, I'm like, okay, well, do you have interest in this? No. Do you have interest in this? Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I'm like, okay, start there. Start with the things that you find actually super interesting, and you'll be able to start digging into resources and then question everything. So, whenever you see a study that says X result, okay, is there a meta analysis on this same topic? No. All right, find every other source you can on the same topic and see if they agree with each other. If they don't agree with each other, all right, which way does it seem to lean? Do they have good reasoning for why it leans that way? Or are they just giving you like the results, but not really giving you the mechanisms behind it? It's if you are truly interested, you will be able to figure out a lot of stuff. Also, like listening to people like me, other people who consistently take a look at the literature is a good starting point because we'll often be talking about things that are more interesting, a little bit more nuanced. There are a lot of things that aren't nuanced, and those things don't tend to get talked about as much. So I think what happens is people often take a look and they say, oh, well, you disagree with X person on everything. I'm like, no, no, I'm pretty sure we both think that curls are going to grow the biceps. Pretty sure we're both on the same page about that. Pretty sure we both think that a chest press will grow the chest. Even if one of us places more priority on chest pressing, we both think that chest pressing will grow the chest, right? So it's like they'll be like, oh, well, you disagree on everything. It's like, yeah, if you're even somewhat good at what you do, you're going to agree with the vast majority of other creators, like 95 to 98% of the time. It's just the 2 to 5% that is a little bit more nuanced, that's a little bit more technical. That's the stuff we tend to talk about more because it's not all that interesting to say things that everybody already knows or that everybody agrees on, I should say. A and B rotations or keep the same exercises and why? Personally, I would base it on time. So I know this is kind of an unpopular opinion because people are very much in different camps on this, where they're like, no, if you do A exercise and B exercise and you have both in your program, there's no need for you to do them on the same week if they are on the same day if they hit the same muscle group. I'm a little bit more of the if you're not limited on time, then I would say it probably makes sense to do both on the same day and do it both sessions. Um, but if you're a little bit more limited on time, you want to be a little bit more efficient. You don't want to have to go through the warm up process for each. Like, I don't think the differences are going to be so great that you should be like, oh, no, like if I don't do this, I think at that point you are really getting into the weeds. Did you find preacher curls hard to progress on? Of course. I mean, the smaller the muscle group is that you're doing, the smaller the overall total load that you're moving, the harder it is to progress. So even with preacher curls, technically speaking, there's times where I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm progressing on it, and then I'll take a look at a video of myself doing it. I'm like, yeah, but your form just isn't as good as it was when you were doing this previously. So I'll take it back to the drawing board, I'll bring it back, and then I'll work my way back up, and then the form starts to get sloppy again. I'm like, okay, so did you actually improve? And then you don't realize that like how long it's actually taking to progress. It's just people often gaslight themselves into believing they're progressing faster than they are because they'll change up their technique, the way they go about exercises, and then they'll be like, well, I gained 20 pounds on my preacher curl in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, all right, cool. If you're outside of the newbie gains, no, you didn't. Like you just either changed your technique or it was new to your programming. That's really the only answer. What do you think about Lizzo Kryptonian? His physique, his ability to stay super lean is crazy. Um, I will say this. So if you haven't looked him up, go look him up right now. Lizzo Kryptonian, Lyzo Kryptonian. He's super interesting because I think he legitimately believes that most people can just do what he does. Right. So it's like I've seen, and maybe he's changed his opinion on this, but I seem to remember him being like, oh yeah, like as long as you just get this lean, like you can just hold it here as long as you do it in the proper manner. And I'm like, bro, you're eating 5,000 calories at like 5% body fat. Like, if you think that that's the norm, like other people can do that, like I don't think you've actually like I don't know. I don't see it. Like if you show me that you're doing this with people repeatedly, then sure, like I'll go with it. But I just don't think it's something that most people can do. I think it's very, very rare. Are you ever going to the Netherlands? I would love to at some point. How important are micronutrients when it comes to bodybuilding? So often what happens is people will ask questions like that, but they don't clarify it. So it'll be like this. Let's see. I'll give you an example, right? People ask like, how important is sleep to bodybuilding? And then you have sleep. Person says not important. And then you'll have a person who says it's important. So this is what you often have, right? Whenever you have somebody, is it the right way? Oh, it is the right way. Cool. I thought it was mirrored. All right. So what you'll have is you'll have people say, oh, sleep isn't that important, like to muscle building. I'm like, are you an idiot? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, well, most people are getting enough. I'm like, okay, so that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. So what you'll have is you'll have people, and this is the same thing with micronutrients, right? So like when people are getting a decent amount of micronutrients, they'll be like, oh, micronutrients aren't that important. I don't really think about it. I'm like, what are you eating? And then they tell me what they're eating. I'm like, yeah, because you're getting good micronutrient intake from that food. So you're saying it's not important, but you've never actually experienced true micronutrient deficiency. Same thing happens when it comes to sleep. So what you'll have is you'll have the person who says that sleep isn't important, and they're typically getting a minimum of 7 hours or so, right? They might not get over 8. And so they're like, well, 8's the recommended, and I only get like 7 hours and 15 minutes or 7.5 hours. So sleep's not that important. And then you have another person who plays it up super high, who's like, no, sleep is super important. What are you talking about? But that person came from a background where at some point in their life, they were sleeping only like 5 to 6 hours a night for a long period of time, were really struggling to build muscle. And then they increased their sleep and got it up to above 7 hours, closer to like 8 plus. And they're like, no, sleep is super important. What are you talking about? And they're arguing past each other, but what they don't realize is the person who says sleep is not important is getting good sleep. And then they're telling other people who, well, like, we're coming from legitimately terrible sleep, that sleep isn't important. And they're like, I've literally experienced it. What are you talking about? I've experienced how hard it is to build muscle on 5 hours of sleep a night. What are you talking about? It's not important. And so it's like, it's just a dumb topic because you get people who aren't hearing each other arguing. Sleep is super important for building muscle, like ridiculously important. Micronutrients, ridiculously important. Does that mean that if you go low on your micronutrients for like 3 days, that you're going to have a hard time building muscle? No. Does that mean that if you have a couple of days of like 5 hours sleep in a week, then automatically you're not going to be able to build muscle or it's going to be ridiculously tough? Probably not. But if we're talking about chronically underslept, chronically micronutrient deficient, very big deals. Does anyone have the fat loss manual that can vouch for it? Yeah, I do. I can vouch for it. I'm just messing with you. Love the content. Bro just sent me money just to say he loves the content. That is a W supporter right there. Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate it. You ever had a clicking sound come from your shoulders? I know people talk about that a lot, but I don't think I have. I've had elbow, wrist. I don't think I've ever had clicking in my shoulder. Would you recommend that the average person takes a multivitamin? I mean, you can. Like, I take a multi, but I get my multi for free. And when I don't get my multi, I'm not like freaking out like, oh no, I don't have my multi. Like, so $10 is not rich, gang. All right, then random, then send me $10. Random over here is flexing like $10 not rich, gang. All right, put your money where your mouth is. I'm just kidding. Ever had a calf strain? Yes. Sucked. Sucked. How does cardio past the zone 2 range affect muscle? Um, okay, so cardio is an interesting one because I've seen some people say that cardio only impacts muscle growth insofar as it takes away possible energy for your workouts, which I'm partially on board with, but I think at one point or another, I haven't looked into it as deeply as I should, to be completely honest. But I think at one point or another, I saw something about there being actual molecules that are released that hinder your ability to grow muscle when you do extremely intense cardio. I'd have to look into it again. It's been a long time, but I mean, I have always taken the safest option, and that is to not overdo my cardio so that I can have solid gym sessions. Thoughts on reverse diet as you're finishing a cut? I think it's a fantastic idea. I use reverse diets all the time. Now, I don't use it for the same purpose as other people, and that's where people get confused, right? So you'll have people that will say they'll talk about reverse dieting, and it's all about metabolism, and it's like, oh, like these people need to build up their metabolism. That's why they need to reverse. No, that's not why I'm using it. But I'll use reverse diets for people as diets get tougher. Then what happens is you give them more resources. So let's say somebody's 2,500 calorie overall maintenance, and then you take them down to like 1,500 calories, which is obviously pretty steep. And then they're at 1,500 calories. It's like, okay, well, 1,500 is pretty tough. You don't want to keep them there for too long. It's like, okay, 1,500, let's raise it up to 1,600. All right, it's still pretty tough, but they're feeling a little bit better with that. And then they start to like wean off that, or I should say, start to taper off in the way that they're feeling overall, muscularly, mentally. It's like, all right, well, let's raise it to 1,700. It's like, oh, that's a nice boost. And then they're like, it's still like kind of tough, but they're feeling a little bit. And like I use it for that purpose, and it is honestly super effective. it's it's a very, very good process. And it's a lot more fun way to diet, in my opinion. I have evidence that 3 times frequency is not recoverable. Well, drop it. Drop it. You're gonna get a lot of Chris Beardsley people very mad. Leak the next video idea. I shot a video today, a YouTube video today, where I'm gonna do an overrated, underrated series on TikTok on exercises that I see on TikTok. So I did an exercise today, and I'll put out videos on whether they're overrated or underrated exercises. What did you do to recover from a calf strain? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I just waited it out. Didn't do anything specific. Bro is not Eric. Who the heck is Eric? Which would you choose if you could only take one of these? Magnesium or omega-3? That's a good question. See, I'm pretty particular about trying to get salmon into my diet, so my omegas are usually covered. So probably magnesium, to be honest. Eric Janicki. Oh, does he do that? Overrated or underrated exercises that he saw on TikTok? Sorry, I didn't mean to steal. Are you tracking your food these days? Yes. I'd love to ask, what do you personally think about eating things like raw liver, raw dairy? I just don't really see a reason for it. I would just eat cooked liver and non-raw dairy. Yeah, he does that? Oh, shoot. I guess I'm just a copycat. Bro is not Magnus. Bro, I am Magnus. I am Magnus. I'm actually a huge Magnus fan. I'm a huge Magnus fan. Something you guys don't know about me.
Have you ever played a competitive game while drunk? Yes.
Magnus is my boy. Magnus is my boy. We're gonna collab someday. I swear it. Play me? Dude, I suck at chess. I'm like, I never understood. Hi, buddy. Hi. Yes, they love you. They love you. I never understood the idea of just being like a fan of athletes or sports that you have zero involvement with until that. So like I surprisingly I do not play chess. I know incredibly little about chess, but I find it fun to watch. I find it fun to watch, even though I have no idea what's going on. Like, I should say I find it more fun to like follow the major players in chess. It's DNF. Yes, DNF. Gay. Marcus, you're coming out on my live? That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm sure there's a better place to do that. Magnus has the best crash outs. He does. Magnus has like, when you talk about aura, you got like Michael Jackson, Sung Jin Woo, and then Magnus Carlsen. But it's tight, man. It's tight. Would you recommend including shoulder pressing for overall shoulder development, or can I settle with incline pressing for front delt and standard isolations for lateral and rear? My opinion on this is probably not the popular opinion, but I do like no shoulder pressing. Might I do it in the future? Maybe, but I always found shoulder pressing just wasn't worth it for me. We got unks talking about aura now. See, the crazy thing is, I think what happens is, what is the generation right now? Are you guys Gen Z? I don't know what you guys are. I can't remember the generations. What happens is you guys think that you came up with terms and terminology, and I'm like, you're literally just recycling language from when my parents were kids. Like, what? Like, you're not new. I gotta go, but keep up the videos. Love to watch them. Guys, I think Cameron's rich. I think Cameron is rich. I appreciate it. So if I don't eat fish at all, should I take omega-3 instead? I'm sure there's other sources of omega-3 that you can get, but if you're not getting any omega-3s into your diet, I think it's probably a good idea to consider it. But the difference is that I don't think parents talked about gooning the way we use the word. Yeah, but we weren't talking about gooning. We were talking about aura. So, yes, the word still means the same thing. Oh, crazy. Have I watched Code Geass? Yes, very unpopular opinion. I stopped partway through. I was struggling to get into it. How slow do you go in a gaining phase? So, how slow you go in a gaining phase should be entirely based off of how advanced you are as an athlete. Um, I'll see people, they'll be like, oh, are you kidding? Like, you only gain like 1 pound every like month or two. I'm like, bro, like, how much muscle do you think that me at my stage in my career can gain? Like, you think I'm going to be capable of gaining 2 pounds of muscle a month? No, not even close. So, for me to try actively to gain 2 pounds every month, I'm just putting on unnecessary fat. What do you think are good strength standards for looking big? Um, good question. All right. So if we're talking, okay, let's assume the person is, we're assuming a 5'9" individual. Okay, we'll go average, 5'9", 5'10", somewhere around there. If you're 5'9" or 5'10", and you have these numbers as your lifts, and you're not relatively muscular, I'd be pretty surprised. I would say that if you're over a 315 bench, if you're above a 400 on squat, and if you're above 500 on deadlift, I'd be surprised if you don't have a good amount of muscle. Like, it's very rare that you see people hitting those numbers who have not built a decently substantial amount of muscle. That obviously we're talking about natural standards here. $315. Yep. Yep. Very rarely will you see somebody at the top level of natural lifting who can't hit at least a 315 bench. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you can tell me any like real top level natural bodybuilder, not in men's physique or like or they're just good at classic because they happen to have the right proportions, but I mean like heavily muscled natural bodybuilder who can't bench 315, and I'd be pretty surprised. That is assuming they actually practice the lift somewhat. Is 2 sets in a week enough to maintain size? Maybe if you do them separated from each other, like if you did one set on Monday and one set on Friday and it was a hard set, you probably could maintain your muscle, assuming you're not a super advanced athlete. Here's the issue, right? People are like, oh, well, in this study, they were able to maintain muscle on this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, these guys are not in the same position as somebody who's been training smart for 10 years, right? So it's like, I'll see it as they'll be like, oh, but they were advanced athletes. I'm like, okay, what was their definition of advanced? Advanced is like they could squat their body weight or something like that. And I'm like, okay, sorry. I don't really consider that to be an advanced athlete. And so what happens is you'll get people making their opinions off of things like this. And I'm like, I legitimately don't believe that I would maintain my muscle on one set twice a week. So not, yeah, one set twice a week. I don't believe I would maintain muscle on that. How close do you actually think you are to maximizing your genetic potential? I don't know, man. I don't know. Every time I'm like, oh, well, I have to be there. It's like, then I'll see like an additional striation at the same body weight as I was like a couple years ago. And I'm like, okay, so maybe I've got a little bit more left in me. It's just hard to know. Now how close I am, like I don't think I have 15 more pounds of muscle to get. I just don't think that's possible at this stage in the game for me. But like a few more pounds of muscle, I think is very reasonable. Could I get to like 10 more pounds of muscle? It'd be tough. It'd be tough. I don't I'd be very surprised. Like let's put it this way, if I was to be able to gain 10 more pounds of muscle than what I'm at currently, then that would mean that I would be pretty ripped at 200 pounds, which is that's a high standard. I wouldn't be like stage ready, but you'd be like, that's a bull right there. I didn't watch the new Jeff video. I've seen a couple clips, but I didn't watch it. How do you find a wife? You have to look in the right places, man. You ever seen a guy named Joseph Shin? He's like 6'3" and 180 pounds, but he benches 405 for 2 reps. Yeah, but how much does he squat and deadlift? How much does he squat and deadlift? Also, let's see. Are you sure that's how you spell his name? I don't see him. I don't see him. Joe. I don't see him, man. Does Echovision do veteran discounts? I don't believe so. I think you could gain like 2 to 3 pounds of muscle like Jeff, maybe. And didn't Jeff do that in like a year? He was asking about lifetime. I just tried to search him up. Do you have military discounts for your fat loss manual? I do not. I'm sorry. What are the plans for this live? I don't know what that means. Why using cuffs for more motor unit recruitment if grabbing something increases motor unit recruitment? So it's not, you're misunderstanding the point. So there's a difference between a radiation effect and having to actually use your own grip to make the weight move. They're two different things. So the cuff being here and you gripping something is not the same as you having to grip that implement in order to keep it from moving while doing this. Right? So if you're gripping something, but there's no actual action against the wrist, it's a completely different topic. But honestly, if you legitimately think that you can't get tricep gains by having to grip the attachment that you're using, then you've completely lost the plot. It like you are legitimately in over your head at that point. So, can you use cuffs? Yes. Is it helpful? Yes. Do you have to use cuffs in order to get good triceps? 100% no. How often should I change exercises? I mean, you really don't need to change exercises that often. The only reason you should be looking to change your exercise is either because you found something that you like more or is better, or because you're just like so bored of that exercise that you're like, you know what, I need to swap this out for my own sanity. Do you use some sort of software in your coaching business for clients? Not really. No, no app or anything like that. Google Docs, or I should say Google Sheets when necessary. Outside of that, not really. Are you going to watch Fantastic Four? Let me see. Fantastic Four release date. It's out today? I might have plans for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see if Tori wants to go. Tell Ecovision to ship to Argentina. All right, I'll make sure. We don't ship to anywhere else there, but in South America, but we'll ship to Argentina. Are there muscles most people don't train that you think are worth training, like neck, for example? What muscle groups are people typically not training that I think are worth training? I think abs are worth training for a lot of people, and people don't train them. Like if you're genetically good with your abs or you've lifted really heavy for a long period of time, so you have thick abs, obviously different circumstance. But abs, I think, is one. And then you have your obvious ones like calves, train your calves, glutes. But I think most of the muscle groups that are worth training, people train. Um, Erectors is one that's kind of been left behind in the science-based era because everybody's trying to avoid heavy lifting. And so because of that, erectors are kind of neglected by a lot of people. And that's why I made that YouTube video more recently. I'm like, well, if you're not going to be doing the movements that you need to in order to build up your erectors, then here's something you can do. Can you debate on whether overhead presses target the long head of the triceps? You mean overhead extensions? Infraspinatus is neglected? Possibly. Possibly. Do you believe people over prioritize MUR? It depends on what you mean by over prioritize. Do I think some people are seeking MUR so heavily that they completely miss the picture? Yes. But like it's kind of hard to over prioritize the leading thing that causes growth. So it's like that's like saying, do you think people over prioritize calorie deficits? I'm like, well, I mean, it's like it's the only thing that's gonna get you into fat loss. So it's like kind of hard to over prioritize, but as far as like do people do it incorrectly and do people go about it in a manner that's kind of dumb at times? I think absolutely. How often should I train arms to prioritize them if they recover fast? Well, I mean, when you say if they recover fast, I think a lot of people think that they recover fast simply because they're not sore. Just because you're not sore doesn't mean that you recover fast, right? Like I can do a hard session as long as you've got the repeat about effect going. You can do hard sessions for a lot of muscle groups, not feel sore the next day. You'd be like, oh, well, I'm recovered. Just because you're not sore the next day doesn't mean you're recovered. So as far as you trying to be like, oh, well, they recover fast, so how often should I train them? You're thinking about it wrong. What you should be focused on is solid exercise selection. If you train them 2 to 3 times per week, that'll be more than enough, just progressively overloaded over time. Thoughts on Julian Fitzgerald? Is he natty? I mean, here's the thing about topics like that. I'm like, does he fit within what we would expect most natural lifters to be capable of in that time period? No. Does he even fit within what we would consider genetic elites to be able to achieve in that time frame? No. Is there like some off possibility that he is natural? Sure, maybe. It's like I would rather look at somebody well into their training than somebody at the beginning. Cuz 3 years, if you train pretty hard, you are going to gain a substantial amount of the overall muscle mass that you will get in your career. But let's say Julian, I think he's 5'10", like 200 pounds right now, right around there. Let's say he gets up to be, let's say he gets to, he's 5'10", right? So let's say he's 5'10", and 3 years from now, he's 225 pounds with the same fat levels. I'm gonna be like, bro, are you serious? Like, it's like at that point, maybe like, okay, I'm calling bull. But at this point, I'm just like, whatever. Like, is it something I would be capable of? No. Is it something that the vast majority of the population would be capable of? No. But I would rather wait to see, okay, like, do you continue to grow, or did you just like tap out a lot of your gains very early on? One of the things though that's interesting with him is like I would say that he's interesting because he has certain body parts that are just superior. So like his biceps are just incredible. Like I think that's part of the reason why there's certain body parts that he has that are so good that people are like, that's not possible naturally. It's like you take a look at his legs. His legs are like, yeah, pretty meh. But his biceps are like top class. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. It'll be an interesting one to see in the long run. This girl keeps texting me, but she is uninterested to go out. Out. What am I doing wrong? Also recommended sets for fat loss routine if I do it 2 times per week, full body. Uh, you don't need a different fat loss routine from your regular routine. As far as like why she's uninterested in going out with you, she just might not view you that way, right? Like girls have a better ability to separate the gender that they're talking with romantic attachment. So guys, if they find themselves feeling like they want to go out of their way to talk to girls on a consistent basis, it's more often that the guy will be interested romantically in that girl than it is if a girl wants to go out of her way to talk to a guy on a consistent basis. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of overlap. Sure, there is, but she literally might just view you as a friend. Most important micros? It's a good question. Honestly, I wouldn't say that there's like, I think you're viewing it wrong if you're like most important micros. Instead of viewing it as what's the most important micros, go through and be like, okay, well, you got your vitamins, you got your various essential fats, and so what you should do is you should just take a look and say, all right, am I hitting the categories that I'm trying to hit? What are the things that a lot of people are deficient in? What am I like not getting enough of? Go through, log out a day, be like, okay, put it into ChatGPT and be like, what am I not getting enough of when I do this day? Or you could put it into Chronometer or something else like that, and then see, okay, what are the areas that I seem to be lacking in? His biceps are as big as Larry Wheels. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, but if you notice, his other body parts aren't even close. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like he has standout body parts like his biceps. Um, so I'll give you an example. There was, because somebody was like, well, is it even possible to get biceps that big as a natural? And I'm like, well, I mean, rather than asking, is it possible to get biceps that big as a natural? What you should be doing is is it possible to get his overall physique? Because there's always genetic outliers for certain body parts. So if every body part was as gifted as his biceps, then you'd be like, okay, well, the overall odds of that happening are zilch. It's not going to happen. So I want to show you guys somebody. Because somebody was asking about him, and shoot, what was the name of the guy? There was a dang, is like let me find him. Let me find him real quick. What's the guy's name? Dang, I can't think of him. Shoot, somebody sent me this guy. Oh, there he is. What's his name? Marco Savalainen. Marco, because somebody said, okay, well, if his biceps are that big and he happens to be natural, then what would his biceps look like if he hopped on gear? And I'm like, well, they would look like this guy. Let me show you. All right. So it's like this guy never ended up being like best in the world when it came to overall physique. But if you take a look at his actual biceps, like nobody ever, I don't think anybody ever developed a bicep as good as his in history. So if you're somebody who's ridiculously genetically gifted in a certain area, you hop on gear, that body part's just going to get bigger too. Yeah, it's pretty insane. What do you think about slower eccentric? It depends on how slow, right? Control it. No need for you to go overboard. Not even Marcus Rule? Well, let's take a look. All right. So we'll give you this guy first, right? So there's that bicep right there. Look at only the bicep. Okay. You're going to be tempted to be like, oh, but he's bigger overall when you see Marcus Rule. Look at just the bicep itself. Okay. Now, Marcus Rule bicep. See? Great bicep, but if you just isolate the bicep from everything else, not as big. Ronnie Coleman biceps are better. Ronnie Coleman biceps aren't even close. Now do Lee Priest. I mean, you're just at this point, you're not like, you think I haven't looked into these guys before? Guys, I look at men's bodies more than this entire chat combined. So you're not gonna surprise me and be like, take a look at this guy. Like his biceps are better. Like it's not gonna happen. Right? Like Lee Priest, obviously fantastic buy, but I would say more so than his biceps. I would say Lee just had fantastic arms in general. You know the professor? Nope, you don't. I literally know the professor. Claims natural, doesn't look natural. Yeah, that's what I thought. I know more people in this sphere than you do. Get on my level. Do you think the rate of muscle growth is the same in maintenance versus cutting? No, of course it's not. Of course it's not the same. What level? You don't even have a PhD. Bro, we're talking about bodybuilding and analyzing men's physiques. You have a PhD in analyzing men in Speedos on stage? What are you talking about? You missed a donation? Oh. Please review Matt Mendenhall. Thoughts on blood flow restriction? It can be fine. It's good at certain times if you're like dealing with injuries, stuff like that can help. Can help you not have to go as heavy. Matt, what's the name? Matt Mendenhall. Let me see. Matt Mendenhall. Like, you just want me to analyze him for his biceps, or like, what is it that you want me to? Not exactly sure what you want from that. Great physique. How high of an FFMI do you think someone could get with average genetics? I don't know. 24, maybe, if they were really dedicated. You gonna be at the WMBF? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, to be completely honest. I was gonna say like maybe, no, probably not. Greg Knuckles does a good job explaining why high volume is better. Have you looked into it? Just briefly. Just briefly. I think Knuckles is missing some stuff. I mean, I've also seen Knuckles say some pretty wild things. Not saying that he's not okay in general, but I've seen Knuckles say some things where I'm just like, yeah, no, not on board with that. Like, there's been various times, like, I remember, this is very heavily cherry picking, right? So, like, I've said stupid things before too, so don't be like, oh, well, but you said this is something. Yes, of course. But I remember reading something from Knuckles where he was like talking about, how training twice in one day allowed him to put on like so much more muscle than like anything else. And bro had just like upped his doses like crazy. And I was like, what? Like, did it just happen to coincide with the massive increase in growth hormone? Or, and I was like, and that one was really, really funny. But no, I haven't read the whole thing, but I did see some people already like kind of tearing him apart for his inclusion of certain things. And it's like, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree on a lot of different things. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. No freaking way. Okay, I'm not even going to lie to you. Somebody said, isn't Greg Knuckles natural? And I'm like, no, of course he's not. I kid you not. I had somebody completely different pictured in my head. Who was I thinking of? Because I just looked him up and because I'm like, of course he's not natural. Like, I was about to show you guys a picture. I had somebody completely different pictured in my head. Huh. Interesting. So, guys, do not go running with what I just said. It was a different person. It was a different person. Okay? Please, please do not go running with what I just said. I was thinking about somebody else. Ugh. Is it overvaluing the MUR difference to avoid doing a bro split just because higher frequency splits give more MUR? Okay, so if you are taking a look at clipped and shipped, we're screwed, guys. We're screwed. If you're taking a look at bro splits versus non-bro splits, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I think people are overplaying the value of frequency right now. Every once in a while, what you'll see, and this is part of the thing that gets really frustrating to me, is people will be like, oh, well, like the science-based community always comes full circle. And I'm like, first off, no, there's a lot of things that don't come full circle. It's just like you just happen to hyperfixate on things where people do come back to an original idea on. But two, I don't think the truly science-based people are arguing for frequency the same way as a lot of the people who would consider themselves part of the science-based community. I think there's a very big difference between larger science-based creators and the science-based community. So what happens is, I think you're getting people who take a look at short-term results on very particular data, and they extrapolate that to be long-term. And I think it's a very foolish way of doing things. So I don't think that doing a bro split is not going to allow you to achieve most of what you try to achieve. I think you could do a bro split. Let's say you started off with a bro split and you ran that for like 5 years. Or you started off with 2 times frequency and you ran that for 5 years, or you started off with 3 times frequency for 5 years. I think there's a lot of people that would try to convince you that you're going to get there way faster if you did 3 times a week. Like they'd be like almost like linear. I don't think it works like that. I think 2 times is probably going to yield superior results done in a smart manner than 1 time. But I think that the difference between 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, I think 2 to 3 is a lot smaller. I think even the difference between 1 to 2, I don't think is as big as people are making it out to be. What do you think about pause? What's pause? Alex Hormozy did Knuckles 2-a-day transformation. Interesting. So it was Knuckles. Was it Knuckles training, but Alex Hormozy was the one doing it? Because that would make more sense. Because I was like, how did I get the name Knuckles in there at some point? That would make more sense. But also, I'm not a person to slander, so I'm also not going to be like, well, that must be what, I don't know. This is what somebody else in the chat saying. People always ask me like, what are your thoughts that so and so said this? I'm like, well, I didn't see them say it, so I'm not going to give my thoughts on it. So I'm very careful with that. Top 3 backs of all time. Ooh, good question. Good question. Top 3 backs of all time. Ronnie, Phil Heath, and Dorian. Ronnie, Phil Heath, and Dorian. Stopping the movement at the bottom or top. Oh, so like just pausing at the bottom or the top of a movement? Overrated. How large can arms get as a natty with skinny wrists? I don't know. Check Fawn's DMs. He sent you something. 1 second. Seriously? That's it? That's what I had to go check my things for? Brutal. That was not worth it. Oh, well, let's see what his physique update's looking like. He just sent me, you know how like people put pictures of me in the comments from like various times? It was just one of those pictures. Hi. Did Tori send you up here? Hey. Oh, all right, guys, let's see what Fonz is looking like. All right. Yeah, pretty good. Definition's starting to come in a little bit clearer. All right, physique update from Fonz. All right, how's he looking, chat? Physique update. I didn't look through these ahead of time, so hopefully they're all appropriate. As the expert coach here, I think it's solid. Good. Good. Yes, he's natural. But he's, what is he, 19? 18, 19? He's under 20. Do you have any predictions for Fantastic Four? So I already watched a review from, what's his face? Jeremy Johns on it. Big fan. And he said it was good. So typically we tend to align on a lot of things when it comes to movies. So see ya, Drax. Just left without saying goodbye. So I would guess that it's going to be pretty good. Have you ever tried upper lower no rest on yourself? I did. I tried it for a little bit just to see. I was curious. I had a hard time recovering. I had a hard time recovering within 48 hours. How do you stop your ego from degrading form to gaslight yourself into thinking you're progressing more? It's a great question. People do it all the time. Video your sets. So if you video a set at the beginning, like every like month or so, just take and video a top set and you'll be able to see it. Do you consider yourself to have a big forehead or not? Good question. Let me see. I try to be objective with myself, so let me... No! Technical issues. All right, let me see. Yeah. 4 fingers. Isn't that what they say? If you have a big forehead, then it's 5. All right? But my 5th finger goes up into my hair, so I think I'm okay. Maybe. I don't know. It's average. Okay, there we go. I get that a lot. I got a proceeding hairline. Sorry, man. Sorry. How to minimize effect of alcohol on hypertrophy without reducing intake. Oh, we got a dullard in the comments. Get over your drinking, man. Do you want muscle or do you want to drink? Just stop drinking. I'm sorry. I've made videos on this before. People and their alcohol, man, just toss it. Just toss it. You'll be okay. If you never touched a drink for the rest of your life, you'd be okay. I've never once regretted getting somebody off of alcohol. And I've never had somebody who got off alcohol per my recommendation regret it. Can you get a good workout at Planet Fitness? Of course. Are 10 to 12 sets for lats and 10 to 12 for upper back optimal, or should we decrease volume considering it's all back? For an individual week, If you did 10 to 12 sets for the lats and 10 to 12 for the upper back, um, it's a decent amount. Like that's a lot. I probably wouldn't do that much personally, just especially since there's some overlap. So like you can't fully like take the traps out of every lat movement, and you can't fully take the traps out of every lat movement. Did I just say the same thing twice? I might have said the same thing twice. So I like a little medium ground in there, you know? But I mean, if you did 10 to 12 sets of each, so like 24 sets total, if you did 12 and 12, could you recover from it? Probably, but it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot. How to know if I didn't recover? Well, are you continuing to progress? Why don't you use gear and become Mr. Olympia? Bro, I'm not even an impressive natural athlete. Like, whenever I hear people say that, I'm like, so you just are unfamiliar with natural bodybuilding. Totally. Like, I coach at least four. I currently coach at least 3 bodybuilders who are natural, who are better than me. Like, why? Like, what makes you think I would be able to become a Mr. Olympia if I simply used gear? That makes no sense. You're like 200 lean and 5'10". I'm 5'9", actually. How's that not good for a natty? No, it's good, but it's you like, how do you not understand? Bodybuilding isn't about strictly muscle mass. It's about proportions, symmetry, like things that you just can't gift yourself. You either have it or you don't. I don't have it. It wouldn't matter if I was a hyper responder. I still wouldn't have the proportions. That's the point. The proportions are going to dictate how far you can go. Where do you think you're lacking? So my waist is wide. That's an immediate huge strike. My lats don't have enough flare, sweep. My clavicles are pretty narrow. My chest is not as big as wouldn't be as big and full as it would need to be. The only body parts that I have that could, let's say I hopped on gear and I responded super, super well. My only body parts that would be Olympia level would be like, that would be able to be on stage and even be like semi comparable, would be body parts like my erectors and my biceps and triceps. Even shoulders would be probably not there, right? But that's the thing, like you can't just have one body part. You have to have it all. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna ride off my arms. Doesn't work. A lot of people out there with big arms. A lot of them will never see the Olympia stage. Do you actually need shrugs, or you'll be 100 fine with upper back rows? Need is always a dumb word, because if you want to get your best traps ever, you should probably have shrugs. Do you have to do shrugs? No. But if you could have the body of one bodybuilder, who would it be? Well, that's a good question. See, when I first started off, getting into fitness, nutrition, building muscle, etc., I would have looked at a guy like Frank Zane and been like, yeah, that's perfect. He's like super muscular, but like what I would want to look like. I would never want to look like a Ronnie Coleman or something like that. The further you get along in your career, the more you're like, oh, some of those open bodybuilders are looking pretty good, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say, because it's like you always want more. What's your current split? I am running mostly a push-pull legs right now. What do you think about upper lower rest rest, upper lower rest? Is it good? I mean, if you allocate your volume appropriately, it should be. What do you make from these lives? I mean, you could probably scroll up and add it up, right? People send donations, so you could probably just go add it up. Don't make much from these. I don't do it for money. I do these lives because it's just good for building a community. So community is very, very underrated when it comes to content creation. So what you'll have is you'll have people, they'll post, but they have no real relationship with their audience. So if you want to make it in the world of social media, you want to be semi-relatable, and you want your audience to feel like they have like an actual connection with you. And if you don't have that, you are going to be significantly behind what you could be as a content creator. Your side chest pose is amazing. It's okay. I would say it's probably overall my best pose. It's because it hides most of my weak points. So most of my weak points are silhouette muscles. So if I stand from the front, my silhouette isn't great because I have relatively narrow shoulders, a pretty wide waist, not as much lat flare, and my quads aren't like the shape isn't real nice. So what you'll have is if you take a look at a good bodybuilder, shoot, I drew it wrong. Have to restart. If you take a look at a good bodybuilder, kind of looks like a girl, but hey, that's what it's supposed to look like. This is the overall shape you want from the front, right? Now, what you want is you want the quads to not start super high, and when it comes to the quads, what you want is you want the quads to start very narrow, and then as they go further down, make their way outwards more. And so what you want is you actually want what they refer to as the quad sweep, is they want the quads to sweep, but they don't want it to start at the top. And when it starts at the top, it gives a more awkward appearance that's like more conical in nature, where it starts high and then it kind of comes inwards like this. And that's more of the shape of my quads. And then I have a fairly thick waist and then narrow clavicles. So like when it comes to my actual silhouette from the front, it's really, really bad, which is why I can do pretty well when it comes to side poses, because I have a lot of muscle, but the muscle doesn't get shown in its best light unless I'm taking more of a side pose. Same thing when it comes to like a most muscular, right? Like think about who does well in the most muscular. Don't let Tori see that drawing. So think about what it like the people that tend to look good in a most muscular. Nick Walker. Nick Walker looks great in a most muscular, but when he's like does his front poses, like a lot of times he kind of like falls behind. He has great arms, but it's like he doesn't have that nice aesthetic shape. Same thing, right? Like it's like I'm going to do well in a most muscular because I'm just showing off muscle. It's not really about the shape anymore. I'm going to do pretty well in a side chest because it's showing off depth of the muscle and how much muscle you have, but it's not really about shape as much. So David Lade. Yeah, David Lade has a very good, he has a good upper structure. I actually don't know. I don't know what David Lade's lower looks like. I feel like his legs aren't big enough. His legs probably aren't big enough to compete at a higher level. Yeah, he wouldn't be able to do that well on a bodybuilding stage. At a top level, obviously, like at a local show, he'd be great, but he wouldn't be able to pull it off at a top level bodybuilding show unless he was doing men's physique. Sorry, lost you guys. Lost you guys. Internal temperature too high. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Uh, thoughts on upper lower 3 times a week? I mean, it depends on whether you can recover. You can recover, it's good. Opinion on Mike Menser? It depends on what portion of his career. I rather than like I like Mike, but if you're asking me like on his general opinions, then you have to like ask about specific opinions. Dream person to coach? Ooh, that's a good question. Who would be my dream person to coach? That's a good question. It would be somebody who I think it would be somebody who people don't expect to be like a top level guy or like to win, but I think I could get them there. So it'd be somebody like Andrew Jacked. Andrew Jacked is a guy that I would love to work with. Coach Queso. Yeah. Sam Sulek? No, not really. How often are you taking rest days right now, and do you recommend eating much fiber? You should eat fiber, but I think sometimes people go a little crazy on the fiber when they don't need to. As long as you're getting a decent amount, you should be fine. And rest days, usually once a week, sometimes twice a week, but it definitely is more commonly once a week. Best split for someone working 12 hours, shifts, 2 days on, 2 days off. Probably honestly, like a full body or an upper lower would make a lot of sense for somebody like you. And then do it on the days where you have most energy. Da, 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 da. You mentioned M wanted TikTok creators with real community. Well, that's because they make the best sales, right? So often what happens is people think of it in terms of followings. They'll be like, oh, well, you should go after this athlete because they have a lot of followers or they have a great physique. It's like, but nobody cares what they have to say. Nobody trusts their opinion. They just happen to be a pretty face or they post really high quality videos, but they don't really actually give value in terms of like information, education. Their audience doesn't really respect them as a person. So yeah, if you're looking for who you want to get on your team when it comes to making sales for a company, you want creators that have actual community. What about Mike's routine training every 4 days? I mean, training every 4 days is not the smartest. Jack's Fitness coached by TNF would be peak. It would be an interesting time. What gym influencers did you used to watch when you started the gym? I mean, most of the ones that I guess you guys might not follow them all that closely anymore. I watched a decent amount of Alpha Destiny. I watched Greg Doucette. I watched Jeff Nippard, Lane Norton, Sean Nalwani, even Athlean X. Like long back in the day, I watched Athlean X. Who else? Who else? Matt Does Fitness. Just people that have been around for a long time. Thoughts on Stefan Matala? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Physique and potential and open. Stefan is going to struggle structurally. Great physique. He's actually one of my favorite physiques. I love his overall look, but the Olympia prioritizes back so much that he's going to struggle. Because he has great arms, great legs, but his back is lacking. So it's like everybody's always like, well, what if they bring that up? I'm like, easier said than done. Could he do it? Maybe. But it's gonna be an uphill battle for him. Stefan, the French guy, I've been following him since 5 years. I started following him like 2-ish years ago. But like I'd not heard of him until about 2 years ago. Sick physique. He looks disgusting. Did you do P90X back in the day? No, I did not. I did the yoga from P90X every once in a while, actually. I know, crazy. But like I was told that I needed to work on my flexibility, so I did the P90X yoga for a little while. You think the emphasis on back is why Logan Franklin wouldn't be able to top Summerfield? It's one of the reasons. Honestly, Summerfield is he's just a dominant force right now. I think people really underestimate how good Summerfield is. Because he had to compete against C-Bum. I don't think people quite realized at the last Olympia how close the battle between C-Bum and Summerfield was. I think they saw it as like, oh, he got second, but C-Bum obviously won. Summerfield was close. Like he was knocking at the door. So I don't think people realize quite how good he is yet until they'll see on the stage this year if he brings it conditioning wise. I don't think there's anybody who's capable of touching him right now. What do you think about Cristiano Ronaldo physique? Used to be a physique that I really looked up to. I saw it more recently and I was like, oh, you're not as big as I remember. But obviously he's a soccer player. It's like different category. What about Ramon Dino? He's just not on that level. He's not on that level. Unless something has changed significantly since the last time I saw him. Summerfield, I would say, was probably top for next Olympia. And I think if we take a look at it, you have guys, I think Terrence is going to be a really interesting one because Terrence probably has the best chance from an overall shape standpoint. Now, he's still a little bit undersized relative to a guy like Summerfield. Summerfield would be bigger than him, but Terrence probably has the second best shape in the Olympia right now. Logan seems to have that more golden era structure, in my opinion. It doesn't matter, though. So I've seen people say this before. They're like, oh, well, they're more golden era. Like, classic is not about being golden era anymore. So like what happened was it was initially a callback to the golden era, but if you take a look at what they prioritize and what physiques they like the most, they actually care far more about the X frame than they do anything that had to do with golden era. So golden era had small legs. Classic very heavily prioritizes large legs, especially quads, like a quad and hamstring sweep. Golden era didn't prioritize that. Golden era didn't prioritize lat sweep to the same level that classic physique does now. Golden era prioritized more arms than classic physique does now. So it's like you can't compare them to each other anymore. What about Urs? He knows how to pose properly. Just knowing how to pose isn't enough. Urs is like, and I've told people this forever, and people don't listen. Urs is always going to struggle structurally. So like whenever I say somebody's going to struggle structurally, what I'm saying is they have a genetic limitation that means that they can't get as good as some of the other people. So if you take a look at Summerfield is this, right? Like this is what, that is what Summerfield's physique looks like, right? It's just a straight up X, tiny waist, sweeping lats, flaring quads. But then you have a guy like Urs, and Urs is more like this. And it's like, it's still good, but when you put them next to each other, people are going to see this as the standout, the one that's like super exaggerated in and out. So it's like, it's just hard for somebody like Urs to overcome that structural limitation. What do you think about Andrea Mamoli? Is he going to the Olympia this year? I love his physique. I think he has a great physique. Did you ever run bro split at all in your lifting career? No, not like a bro split, but aspects of a bro split. So if you take a look at, for a while, some of my training had certain muscle groups only getting worked once a week, but not every muscle group. So aspects of a bro split, but I've never run like a full-on true bro split. Are you a frequent basher? The heck is a basher? Do I think Trend Baby's gonna have a better physique than me? I don't know. I've been seeing some of his updates lately. His frame is coming together. I'm interested in purchasing coaching for contest prep next year. How many weeks out should I contact you by? I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, I have not been taking on that many clients recently. So the earlier the better if you're looking for something. And I have not reached back out to a lot of people that have been signing up for coaching. So if it's like, if you're like, you know what, no, like I'm dead set, like I need you to be my coach, you might want to set up a phone consultation or something like that. Missing you, Mr. TNF. Need to link again soon. Guys, the legendary Ethan is here. The legendary Ethan. What do you think about Justin Badarina? Crazy structure. Justin Badarina. Let me take a look. I feel like I know who you're talking about. I just need to make sure. Justin Badarina. Yes, yes. He does have a really good structure. He's somebody who's interesting because he looked really, really good until I saw him compared to some of the really good people. So, and that's not me saying that he doesn't have a great physique. Obviously he does. Fantastic physique. But he initially, when I saw him on Instagram, I looked at him and I thought, dude, like you might be like the next thing in classic physique. And then I saw him stand next to the other guys who are some of the like best guys in classic physique. I was like, oh, like you don't notice the differences until they're next to each other. So like on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy's might be the next thing. And then you saw him, and then you see like the stage, just like it's just a different appearance. Rare Ethan Pokemon, yes. What percent of gains do you think you'd get from 4 of the best exercises only 2.5 times a week? I don't know, 70. I'll just make up a number. I have no idea. What is happening? What does Hamza have to do with this? What is happening right now? TNF, I got your wrist straps. Love to hear it. Will you ever make a posing video? So here's the thing. If I was to make a posing video, I would probably make it using somebody else because of the fact that I'm not a great poser. It's one of those things where there's a lot of things that I find very fun and interesting when it comes to bodybuilding. Posing is the thing that I have probably spent the least time actually working on myself. So my posing's not great. I'm good at coaching posing because I understand what it's supposed to look like, but my actual personal posing isn't fantastic. So if I was to do a posing video, it would probably be me actually bringing in another athlete to show you guys how I would adjust poses. Everyone buy Optimal 2.0. Blue Raz is the best flavor. W support from Ethan. Sorry, guys. What do you think about Clark? Clark, incredible physique. Like, honestly, like, really, really good physique. No one's buying Optimal, bro. Well, you better tell that to my royalties. My royalties didn't figure that out. I don't know where the check came from, but hey, I guess we'll take your word for it. What FFMI would you guess you'd be if you hopped on? Okay, well, let's calculate that. Good question. Good question. All right. I need to calculate that. Let's see. Okay, so let's say 172. We'll go 6% body fat. All right. So I could probably reasonably gain. Okay, so this is assuming like I'm talking like true gear here. I'm not talking like TRT. I'm talking like we go with everything. Like we got Primo, Mast, HGH, insulin. I'm talking like we're going the full works here. So let's see what we would be looking at. I think ultimately adding in all of those compounds could probably get myself to you. I think if you do things appropriately and you have a propensity towards it, you could probably be getting an additional like 50 pounds of muscle. I think that's reasonable. Like some people obviously more, some people obviously less, but I think 50 when you're taking a look at a lifetime career of, or when I say lifetime, like 10 years, let's say starting now, 10 years till I was 42, taking HGH, insulin, a couple other substances, that would leave me with an FFMI of 5.9. Dang. Can the FFMI calculator not go off the scale? Well, it's well into the 30s. Let's put it that way. Well into the 30s. What the exact number would be, it's hard to know. Can I build lost muscle back after a cut? Of course. Why don't you hop on? Because I'm not a video game character. It's like, I think what happens is people don't view content creators as a real person. So like, well, just hop on. It's like, just, yeah, go for it. Throw it all in there. Put it all in the needle. Put it all on the line. It's like, are you doing that? Well, no. It's like, yes, I am a person just like you. How heavy are you right now? I'm around 200 right now. Thoughts on Runvis and his takes on science-based lifting? You guys are gonna find this wild, but I actually enjoy Runvis's content. I find it funny. Like whenever you have people that go to extremes one way, there will be extremes to the opposite to make up for it. Need balance in the force. So you got the extreme guys who take like their motor unit recruitment, central motor command, unilateral isolation, individual fibers. Like they're going to go absolutely insane with this, right? So you're going to have guys like Runvis who go like super heavy the other direction, who's going to like be over the top on things. And so like I just find it funny. I find the whole thing funny. Would what thing be the same as a T-bar row? How tall is Mundy? I don't know. He's just tall. Take a look at that. So that picture where Mundy's going like this, right? He's going like this with his arm, and I'm like this. Just take a look at that picture. Know that I'm 5'9", and then you guys can extrapolate it. FFMI would be about 32.8 with 50 pounds extra muscle. There you go. There you go. I think that's reasonable. And again, this like, I think sometimes when you say something like that, people be like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, I'm not talking about taking 300 mgs of test, right? I am talking, I dedicate my life to this and turn it into how much of a mass monster can I possibly be? Okay. Very, very big difference between those two things. Sorry, didn't mean to be rude. Just, oh no, I'm not saying you were being rude. It's just, I just mean like that's often what happens, right? When people say, well, I mean, if you could be like that big, then why don't you? And I'm like, same reason that you're probably not on all of those substances that we just mentioned. It's like people just don't view it the same way. They're like, oh, well, if I was in your situation, I would. I'm like, what situation is that? Have a wife. I have a good life. Things are going well. I'm not going to be an Olympia contender. It's like, so what would be the purpose of me injecting all of the stuff that I would need to in order to get to that point? Top 5 legs of all time. It depends on what we're looking at specifically. So, top 5 legs of all time. I would say Big Ramy has some of the best legs of all time. Insane legs. Because like obviously upper portion. Ronnie Coleman is also up there. You can't really deny that. Tom Platz, just because his legs were so big relative to his era. Rubiel Mascara will go down as having some of the biggest legs of all time. Now, best and biggest are not the same thing, but huge legs just doesn't necessarily have the lines and the separation that other guys do. So, again, it kind of depends on the overall way you view best or biggest. Or I should say top 5. Wait, anabolic stick thinks you're on gear? Yeah, that was super disappointing to me too. I was like, oh, this is kind of entertaining watching him do his whole breakdown and like I'm like watching him do these long in-depth breakdowns of certain creators. And then I watched him do a tier list of like natty like natural or nots, and he put me as a fake natty. And I was like, so you're willing to do this large in-depth look at somebody else, but you just ignore my entire history? Like, bro, I'm 31. What? I'm 31. Like, what? Did you even look at my history? That was super disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I am not gonna lie. But I still think his content is overall enjoyable. He put you next to Hussein. I know. I was like, really? So the guy that you're saying achieved all of his results in 1.5 years. Meanwhile, me, I'm 31. Like, I don't know how many times I can say this. I'm 31. You're putting me in the same category? What is happening right now? I honestly think people just think I'm bigger than I am. I legitimately think that's what it is. I'm like, or they don't realize that literally me on stage, that's just getting shredded. Like, if you are willing to suffer the way that I'm willing to suffer in a diet, there's a lot of guys that can achieve what I've achieved on stage. Like, I know, like, you guys are like, oh, you're a genetic outlier. I honestly do not believe that I am an outlier as much as a lot of other people are, at least in terms of structure. Muscle mass wise, I don't think it's that uncommon for naturals who have been in the game for a decade plus to reach a 160s to 170 shredded. Like, I think it's possible for a lot of people, but 31, just say you're 40. Seriously. What do you think about Jonathan Warren? He came after you when you said you weren't pressing. Yeah, his critique was terrible. But Jonathan has his thing, so I let him be. How long were your NPC and OCB contest preps? So I prepped longer for my last show, but there was also breaks. So how long did I prep for my last show? I did it in 2 stages. So I got off like, what would have been initially like 13 to 14 pounds initially. Then I took a little bit of a break, and then I dieted the rest of the way down. I think the overall process started in May, and I competed in November. So June, July, August, September, October, November. So 6 months, but it wasn't truly 6 months because there was a break in between. So I got off some of the initial fat, took a break, relaxed for a little bit, and then pushed the rest of the way. When was the last time you legit cooked a meal? Oh, good question. Geez. When was the last time I cooked a meal? Probably like 3 months ago. Something like that. Do you think the Trend Twins can get their pro cards? Good question. Here's the thing. Some people have it mentally, and some people don't. The Trend Twins do not have it, or at least the last time I saw the Trend Twins, they didn't have it mentally when it came to dieting. So they're going to struggle in that regard. Now, things can change. People can get better about things over time. But I didn't sense them having the mental fortitude that was necessary in order to get there. However, there are other substances that can help with that. So like retatrutide is becoming a lot more common in bodybuilding. So could it be something where they start implementing that and it makes it to the point where they can get themselves to the level they need to, leanness wise, in order to get their pro cards? Maybe. We'll see. Does Unk order all of his food? Yes. I mean, pretty much. Yes, sir. I'm on Retta and a couple other peps. It's like, I mean, it does make it easier. It does make it easier. Favorite protein powder of all time? Good question. Good question. What protein powder left the heaviest impact on me? I don't really consume that much protein powder, and it's been a long time since I've been like in the trenches when it comes to protein powder. What would it be? What would it be? I like inclusions, so it'd probably be some sort of protein powder that has like either crunchy, like some sort of crunchy inclusion, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's been a few different ones. Ghost has made some. Black Magic has made some. There's been a few Echo protein powders that have been good, but I don't know if I'd put them in like the upper echelon. Tough. It's a tough question. It's a tough question. It's been a long time since I've been a protein powder connoisseur. Almost like the s'mores from Echovision. I mean, that was the goal, right? I told you I like inclusions. Like that's a very big thing for me. So like that was the goal with s'mores, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like s'mores from Echo, because that's my signature protein. I'm not going to pretend like it tastes as good as some of the best protein powders that I've had. I'm objective with you guys, right? If I think it's the best, I will say I think it's the best. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yes, this is the best tasting protein powder I've ever had. I think they did a good job with it, but I'm not going to say it's the best I've ever had. Dream person to work out with? That's a good question. Who would be my dream person to work out with? It would have to be somebody that works out somewhat similar to the way I do. Maybe like Jim Dan. I think Jim Dan would be fun to work out with. We have enough crossover in the way we work out that I think it would be really fun. Sebum, Sebum would be fun to work out with. He likes dumbbells a little bit more than I do, but he'd be fun to work out with. TNF taste buds, I don't know. Well, then go buy my protein powder, because I just told you that I don't think it's the best one out there. So if you don't trust my taste buds, I guess you should go buy it. Checkmate. How well do you think David Lade would do in classic physique? Not well. He'd be too small. So classic physique, even in natural bodybuilding, is he'd do fine at a local level, right? But when you got to like the professional level, for professional natural bodybuilders, they tend to carry a lot more mass. So he's very lanky. And lankiness is not a desirable feature on a bodybuilding stage. Now, if you can fill it out, then yes, 100% lankiness, or what would have been lankiness, is great. But he's too lanky to be a top level classic competitor, um, as it currently stands. Bro, don't back down. Echo protein is terrible. Some of it is. I'm not saying, again, some of it is. Have you tried every Echo protein powder? I doubt it. What does your back day look like? So right now, my back day's been kind of annoying recently, I'm not gonna lie. Because I really do want to program Keenan flaps more regularly, but I'm just struggling with cuffs. Man, like the cuffs are always like too loose if I try to like double it up, or like I can't fit it around my arm if it's, and so it's like I want I actually am hopefully going to commission Echo to make a cuff that fits better around the upper arm, and then maybe I'll incorporate it more often. But it's been so annoying to me recently that I've been doing just straight up some sort of frontal plane pull, and then I have a shrug variation. It's like a Kelso shrug. Then I will do some sort of pullovers are fine, right? So I'll do a pullover variant of some sort, or a sagittal row, just depending on how I'm feeling on the day. And then I'll have like your typical rear delt exercises, bicep curls, etc. I found the brownie bad, in my opinion. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I wasn't a huge fan of brownie either. Echovision brownie protein powder, I was not a huge fan of either. But that's just a personal opinion. How was the Bakersfield event? It was a good time. It was a good time. Do you enjoy training lower body? It depends. So, lower body can be one of the most fun days, but it can also be one of the most annoying days. If you have the right equipment available and you're like in the groove and you're feeling healthy and everything, it's fantastic. But lower has been more annoying for me recently, just because like I'm always towing the line of like what, because like I injured my knee a long time ago and I'm coming out of it, so I'm now training again, but I'm always like towing that line as to what's too far, and it's really annoying having to have that in the back of my head. The chocolate peanut butter was gas. I know. I think the white chocolate peanut butter one is really good. But again, you guys don't trust my taste buds. What's the lowest weight class for a natural 5'6" bodybuilder? Lowest weight class? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, to be completely honest. Um, are you just asking for weight class of like 5'6" bodybuilders? Because I can't give you that off the top of my head, but you could just type it into Google. 5'6", classic physique, amateur bodybuilder, weight class. It'll come up right away. What do you do for calves? Straight leg calf raises. Simple. Seated straight leg calf raises. You ignoring me intentionally? I legitimately haven't seen anything from you. Where's your last comment? Do 3 sets of incline, 2 sets of fly, 1 set of weighted dips. Trust me. Bro put out the most basic programming in history and thought he did something. What about standing? Not as good. You can do it, but it's just if you can do seated, then do seated. Is chugging oil okay? So here's the thing. If you're going to be bulking, um, if you're going to be bulking, and you have to get all of your calories from fat, I'm like, you're probably missing the point. Uh, try to get more from carbs if possible. Somebody asked something. Oh, Jeff Nippard said standing is more optimal. That's not what he's referring to. So when I say seated calf raise, I'm referring to a seated straight leg calf raise, not a seated bent knee calf raise. Not the same thing. Very random, but I'm so depressed. Well, sounds like a skill issue to me. I'm just messing with you. I hope you're able to get the help you need. Seriously. Do you think it's ideal to train 3 to 11 sets for every muscle group? Sure. Yeah, that's fine. That would be fine. What was job before social media? It was being a teacher. I was a teacher. Why you wouldn't change your exercises? Isn't that new stimulus good for hypertrophy? No. Like, what new stimulus are you referring to? What did changing your exercises do to provide a new stimulus? Teacher to fitness influencer pipeline? Yeah, it's because we all realized we couldn't make money. We're like, dang, I'm doing a lot for not a lot. I'm just messing. Teacher's a good profession. Like, I enjoyed it. It was fun. Why is Shizzy under such a microscope for being a fake natty when Trell Bankston is so much bigger and stronger? Arms. Shizzy has big arms. That's really what it comes down to. Shizzy has bigger arms. And also obviously got leaner. Trell has never been like super lean. So if Trell gets to be super lean and skin color, I mean, let's be completely honest here, and skin color. The minute somebody is black and achieves a physique that is suspicious, people will automatically, like a large amount of people will automatically be like, oh yeah, but they're black. Even if they have the exact same physique as the white guy. It's just the way it is. Teach on YouTube is greater than teaching in a classroom? Exactly. I can reach more people. Is being a teacher optimal? Very optimal. Very optimal. TNF gave his students a freaking packet, yo. Dude, I was teaching during COVID. We had to give packets. You were told by the school district that you had to give packets. They were at their house. What was I supposed to do? I had to give a packet. You need to hang out with some black people, Mike Israel. Is that a quote? I don't know. I don't know the context. Thoughts on Prosper Fitness being exposed by Greg? I mean, okay, so honest opinion on that. So Prosper was a guy that I said was a fake natural like 3 years ago. I don't know why it's just getting brought up now. I don't know, like, it's like out of nowhere. I was like, Prosper's been around forever. So I was kind of surprised that it took Greg that long to make a video on it. But I made a video on him being a fake natural a long time ago. As far as his blood results go, some of the markers that Greg brought up were relevant, a couple not so. Greg is I don't know why, but Greg is obsessed with liver enzymes, which is always crazy to me because if you follow natural athletes and you get their blood work done regularly, like naturals having slightly elevated liver enzymes is almost more common than not. Because it's like if you work out, you're going to have your liver enzymes somewhat elevated from time to time, if not very often. So like if you're in like the 40s or 50s for your AST and your ALT, it's just kind of the way it goes. It's like every natural is that way. I shouldn't say every. Most naturals, a lot of naturals are that way. So I'm like, okay, that's not really a great marker to look at. I saw a couple other ones. I was like, okay, that's interesting. But it wasn't as clear cut as I think Greg made it out to be. However, I still, like, I don't think Prosper's a natural athlete regardless. You can't just give them a freaking packet, yo. Apparently. That's a goated reference right there. I know exactly what you're talking about. Thoughts on upright row for shoulder? And just do lateral raises. Oh no. Lost you guys. Top 5 gyms in Houston. I heard Absolute Recomp is coming soon. I didn't know Absolute Recomp was coming to Houston, so that'll be interesting. I did not know that. I did not know that. My wife just told me I've been on live for 2.5 hours. Dang. How the time flies when you're having a fun time. Crazy. I find you guys fun to be around. I don't know how that happened. You mogged any more enhanced bros lately? I have never mogged. I have never mogged a good enhanced athlete in my life, if I'm being completely honest. Who are you referring to? Because I would love to know. What enhanced bros have I been mogging? Once he tells me that, because I'm just curious now, then we'll probably have to end the live. Do I talk to Ryan Jewers? Sometimes. Not often, but once in a while. We were talking back and forth about something the other day. What was it about? Oh yeah, it was because I said like beginners, people in their first year of lifting shouldn't be looking to like remove like all these things or do all these things. And then he sent a message to me. He's like, first year, he's like, try like 3 or 4 years. I'm like, yeah, I was being nice. Do I mog Runvis? Objectively, no. Objectively, Runvis is bigger than me. Are you stronger than the majority of PED users? Well, seeing as the majority of PED users are not strong or big, yes. There's a lot of people who take PEDs that you would never know because they dabble with it and they don't really understand how to use it or what to do in the gym. And they're just like wandering around looking slightly better than they would if they weren't taking stuff. All right, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to get going. And my camera is clearly trying to tell me something. So, thoughts on Sam's collab? I didn't see it, but maybe I'll have to go take a look. 2 more questions. How long should I stay in an aggressive cut? Don't stay in it till the point. Okay, so what I say is typically look for a couple different cues. So if your energy is super low, your lifts suck, your sleep is bad, and your libido goes kaput, you probably shouldn't be in that aggressive cut anymore. One more question. One more question. It's got to be a decent one. Got to be a decent one. These are all, come on, give me better questions. Better questions. Why do science lifters do weird exercise when free weight is the same growth? Because it's not the same growth. People have mistaken same growth, similar growth for same growth and don't really understand the implications of long-term versus short-term. But I got to get going. So as always, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. TNF.